Welcome to Keeping the Magic, the podcast, a space for open, authentic conversations that guide us home to our true selves and to our magic within. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome, Martyn.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Martyn Williams, Tales of Resilience from the Poles. So, Martyn, I will do a little presentation so our listeners know a bit more about you and your story. So, Martyn, you are a transformational teacher and coach focused on living an enlightening life. Over the years, you led expeditions to Mount Everest, as well as the North and South Poles, and helped create the first commercial airline operating in Antarctica. That was really impressive.
Yes.
So you also launched a global youth empowerment project that reached over 60 million young people, produced a primetime television documentary, and built several successful businesses. Alongside this work, you taught meditation to monks in India and around the world. Your life and work are guided by a commitment to joy, love, and creativity. Welcome, Martyn.
Great. Thank you. That's correct. You got it.
I got it right. That's good.
Yes.
So, Martyn, I'm really happy to have you here because we had a first talk together, and I really loved our conversation and your story and the resilience that, may I say, you built during your life and with the experiences that you lived, and you kind of went after with trust and a certain knowing. So, Martyn, maybe you could tell a bit more about your story and how things started for you.
So great. Thanks. So let's go way back to Liverpool, young kid born in Liverpool, family, the youngest of three brothers. And every weekend on Sunday, if the weather was bad, we'd go to church. If it was good, we'd go out in nature into Wales and go walking. And for some reason, I just really enjoyed this, the aspect of nature and things like that. And so that really has been foundational in me exploring, right? And so by age 12, I was off bicycling and going to youth hostels. And by 14, I was rock climbing. And so often exploring, well, what is next? What is possible? So I really see this theme of what is possible as really sort of driving my life. So at age 16, I'm in the Alps with my parents and I see some mountain guides. I think, oh, that's just for me. So, I'd love to become a mountain guide, but my dad says, no, that's not possible. Kids from Liverpool don't become mountain guides. It's something that is taught from the farthest to the sun if you live in Switzerland or Austria, right? But then somehow or other, I keep on hanging on to these visions. And by age 22, I'm now halfway around the world in Canada. I'm offered my first guiding job. And so I see that as a theme of just when I have a vision, and I think it applies to us all, when we have a vision, if we hang on to it, the path to realize the vision is not necessarily straight. It can go here and there and everywhere, but over time, these things happen. So in some ways, keeping the magic. In some ways, that's the theme is, I've kept the magic going in multiple times, right? So I have numerous examples of that. And so then having arrived in the Yukon, it was like, oh, well, there's a river over there that hasn't been done before. Could we do that? There's a mountain over there that hasn't been climbed before. Let's go and do that. And so I see that my curiosity then also builds resilience because it's a dynamic between the two. The drive to achieve or the curiosity then blows through obstacles in some ways. And every time I blow through an obstacle, I'm increasing my, resilience, my physical resilience at times to handle more and more cold weather, for instance.
Yes.
But then also the emotional resilience to handle these different environments.
Wow. Yes. And I'm really curious, how did you learn? Did you just learn on the spot by yourself, by being curious and kind of self-discovering, or how did you learn these skills?
Yeah, often it was literally learning on the spot because I was often on the frontier of these different activities. There were not a lot of teachers and coaches around, so often I was literally learning as I went.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And did you ever feel any fear when you would kind of extend yourself in a way to pushing through and trying new experiences and maybe going, if we can see it on a scale, like higher and higher? did you feel any fear? Did it at some point, yeah, like kind of scare you or?
Yeah, so I mean, I think fear is, from my perspective, fear is always there in the background, and then it comes up in various situations, right? And so,
Mm,
in terms of the physicality, over the years, I became very good at understanding fear, facing fear, working with other, people as a guide, working with other people around fear. So, but then when emotions arise, then it's a whole different set of fears to do with
yes,
emotions. And so
yes.
that's in some ways, as I look at my life, I started off in the very physical, dealing with fear on a very physical level. And then it was later
Hmm.
in life I started entering into more of this emotional level of fear and understanding of fear, and play and experimenting with it.
Right. Yes, so that's very interesting. There are different levels of fear. As you said, there's the physical aspect, there's also the emotional aspect. And how do we navigate those fears? And how do we go beyond those fears and trust
Hmm.
that we can, yes, push through and trust our capabilities?
Yeah, again, from my perspective, what I see now is that in my travels around the world, seeing different cultures, I saw fear from different perspectives. So, for instance, and so if we look at it, where we come from creates a lot of our perceptions of what is reality, what can I do, what can I not do, etc., etc.
Yes.
So, I'll give an example. I ended up teaching, so here I am, 21, goes into from Liverpool to the Yukon. I'm teaching in a little village in the
Wow.
Yukon, all native kids, and the temperatures are minus 60 outside, and the kids are out with hardly any clothing because they live, they're just wearing jean jackets, not even a hat often. And but
Wow.
my conditioning, from England was no, 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 you need all this clothing, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Meanwhile, they're just, oh, this is how we do it, right? And so then going to another culture and seeing, oh, their perception of what's possible is very different, right?
Hmm.
And so then
Yes.
when I went off to India, the same sort of thing, what was possible all of a sudden shifts again. For instance,
Right.
I think I mentioned, I've spoken of before that when I was in India, at times we'd experiment with things like lack of sleep, and we would go days and days and days with almost zero sleep. And what that did, that flipped us into a state where we hardly needed sleep, right? We went without food. And so breaking these barriers about, so often our thought patterns are interrelate with our fears, right? And so our thought patterns are,
Mm.
well, I mustn't have 8 hours a day of sleep. I must eat certain
Yes.
amount of calories a day. It must be so much meat, so much protein. You go another part of the world, and that's people are living healthily without any of those things, right? So
Yes.
so we have to look at our thought patterns, help our fears and define our fears.
Exactly. I talk about limiting beliefs a lot, and I
Hmm.
have actually created like a journaling little exercise to do to be able to understand what it is and how we can shift that to something more empowering or positive or just another perspective, because limiting beliefs are not necessarily negative, but they do limit us.
Hmm.
And that what you were just talking about, that really resonated, those patterns where, oh, this is how things should be done, or I am not capable of. Who said so?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
and
And
and when you question that, yeah.
so I think because of my sort of exploratory nature, I ended up questioning those things. What you're talking about is a very structured way of questioning, which is actually better than my accidental way of questioning. So I question those things accidentally because now I'm with a group of people who say, the native people at minus 40 would put their hands in water to warm up in the lake. So without fishing on a lake,
Wow.
they're handling the net, their hands are getting colder, so they put them in the water to warm up, right? The sort of what that does to the mind, right? It's
Yeah,
logical when
yeah.
you're there, but the whole idea. So I think to have a very structured way of doing that really is super important.
Yes, exactly. Well, I guess I like to present structured ways to make it kind of understandable and easy. But I always repeat that to actually, in a way, really understand or learn a lesson, we have to experience it and embody it and
Yes.
feel it to actually really know and understand or change or evolve or shift. If it just stays in the mind or in the logic, then it will just stay a logical lesson and eventually we'll forget and it just won't do anything deeper within.
Yes, I agree totally with that. Yeah.
And you are proof of that because, as you said, it may not be structured, but you were just living all of it.
Yes. And I really see that in some ways, I see it that when we expand like that, we never come back quite to the same shape. We're,
Mm.
we're, we're expanding our potential every time we take a risk, every time we explore, and doors, our perception widens and widens and widens more and more and more,
Yes, that is so true. That is, I have noticed that personally, that every time I, in a way, yes, shift or transform within, I am never the person I was. And I will never go back to that person. And my vision and perspective of life is so much more, yes, wider, open, and expanded.
And I really see that um, the curiosity is something that's been, sort of
Mm,
a driver in me. It's that curiosity. So what is next? What's possible? Oh, that person is this way. Is that possible for me? That person, or that mountain hasn't been climbed. Is that whatever it is? What is possible?
yes.
Yes.
I was going to come back to that because this is too impressive not to talk about it.
Okay.
Mount Everest and the North Poles and North South. Wow. How did that happen? I mean, how did you decide to just go there and do those expeditions?
So um, it was all accidental in some ways. So the South Pole was a buddy of mine who was the second Canadian to climb Everest, wanted to do the highest peak in each continent. At that point, it hadn't been done. So 7 continents and summits, and in the mountaineering or the expedition world, this is a big deal. Right? Hadn't been done. So he and I were attempting to do it as two, dirtbag climbers.
Mm,
But it was logistically super complicated. It took us 3 years, multiple attempts. We had plane
mm.
crashes. We ended up stranded in Antarctica for a while.
Wow.
But when we reached the summit after 3 years, we saw the horizon and we said, hey, the South Pole is 600 miles that way, and nobody's ever been there from this direction. And there's only a few people been there at all. So, hey, that could be next, right? So definitely, and then that led, that accidental inquiry, or that inquiry then led to, oh wow, we're coming back through Chile. We start off as dirtbag climbers. We've made $50,000, and then the Chilean government says, if you want to come back, you need fuel, and we're selling some. So it ended up starting a billion that's now worth multi-millions of dollars. So
Really?
just from being
Wow.
curious, taking the next step.
Yes. That's amazing. And that's really where we can plan things in life, but at the end of the day, if you just take an aligned step where you feel called to go, or you feel that pull or motivation to go, to just do it and trust that and just continue, because as you said, it took you 3 years and you had all those failures, and it probably, I can't even imagine what you've been through, the kind of situations you were in, and still you continued, and still, yes, until, what kind of guided you? Did you have like this kind of inner voice that was telling you just believe or go for it, or?
Well, at times I have inner voice. I have had inner voices, and so you mentioned in the intro about this one project that ended up being a documentary, primetime documentary, and that actually came from a dream and an inner voice, right? And so,
Right.
and the dream was that I was on a train. The train was being attacked by soldiers, and somehow or other I moved from fear into no, 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 this is not right. Then the next morning, all of a sudden, this light bulb goes off about all the different expeditions on the world. Nobody had ever gone from the North Pole to the South Pole into human power. This light bulb goes off, and we're coming into a new millennium. This is in 2000, or 3 years before 2000. And I realized, wow, the South Pole is the first place in the world to enter the new millennium. But what would it be to have a group of young people who've done this extraordinary journey, who've spoken to schools and universities along the way, arriving at the millennium with thousands of promises of action from young people? So that was this bizarre wild idea, right? And it took me 3 years to realize it. And in those 3 years, at one point, I got to one point where I'd spoken to all these companies because I was looking at raising like $1 million or so, and no success. So I was actually in a men's group at the time. I went to the men's group and said, "Look, I have to drop the project." And they said, "How do you
Hmm.
feel?" I said, "I feel sad." So they said, "Well, feel sad." So I felt sad for a few minutes. Oh, then all of a sudden this energy came through me. No, actually, I've done all I can. I feel good. I feel complete. I've done all I can. Next morning,
Hmm.
I get a phone call from Korea saying, from a film company, "We would like to film your project. We have the money. We
Wow.
have the." So, so this is the journey
Amazing.
that we can follow. Just again, I guess my take there is that when we put our all into something, we can
Hmm.
feel fulfilled, and complete, even if it doesn't manifest how we want.
Yes. And that is really a beautiful lesson and really something to remember, because it's so easy to see something that doesn't work out as planned or we had hoped for as just a big failure, and to just give up and yeah, and feel, as you said, sad or disappointed or even angry, or no matter what the emotion is.
Hmm.
But in a way, maybe shifting to seeing that as this, there is no failure.
Hmm.
Everything we do, we have done our best. We learn so much through those actions and effort. Okay, it didn't work out as planned, but maybe there's a better plan for me.
Yeah, that's what I see it again as if I was to, for the listeners, I really see that we make decisions with our best intelligence at the time. So just recognize that. That didn't work out, but I made my best, I used my best intelligence. I can see now my intelligence was flawed, but at the moment it was my best intelligence, right? And so this helps us, really move past these things. But also, I guess one of my learnings from that too, when I went into the emotion fully of it, then
Yes.
I dropped through the emotion into a place of, of realization. I put my heart into it. I've done everything I can. I now feel complete. If we don't go into the emotion, then the emotion, the thoughts keep on bubbling around. Did I do enough? Etc. Etc. So
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's really about how to release these emotions in ways that end up feeling complete and fulfilled, right? Even in the face of failure.
Yes. So, in a way, it is not getting overwhelmed by our emotions and being able to feel, accept, and kind of release in a way to then see what's
Hmm.
under that. What's the lesson, or what's to be seen or remembered after we felt what we needed to feel, but not get trapped basically by our emotions.
Yeah, often
Mm.
what I see is that when I'll give you another example from that one project because it'll sort of illustrate it. So I had to raise this money, right? And I'd done all these other things, and I thought I was, I thought I was resilient, right? And so
Yes.
I'm given a list of phone numbers. People like, the president of CNN. I'm given the phone number from a friend who says this guy is really good to talk with. And so I go in the office, sit down, look at the phone number. Immediately, immense fear comes up in my body. My palms are sweaty, my throat is dry. I can't do anything. So I go to my comfort area, which is planning what food we're going to eat in Antarctica. We need 6,000 calories a day. We need certain amounts of fat. I'm very comfortable doing that, right? I'm not comfortable making the
Right.
phone call. This goes on for a couple of weeks and realize this project is not going anywhere unless I make that phone call. So I think, how am I going to do this? So I think, okay, this fear is all over my body. Can I shift it? So let me visualize the team at the South Pole having finished the journey. So I close my eyes, sitting at my desk, visualize this team of young people. They're all excited. They're yahooing. So then as I do that, the energy in my body changes. And now I'm enthusiastic, right? Totally enthusiastic.
Wow.
I can see it. So then I open my eyes, grab the phone, make the call. But then next day, the same thing again. So I realized that even though I spoke earlier about, we expand, never come back, I was coming back a little bit. But the more I
Yes.
practiced every day, close my eyes, visualize. So I was changing my body chemistry very
Yes,
rapidly.
yes, you are rewiring, aren't you?
That's
How
right. Yeah.
your nervous system responds to those kind of circumstances,
Yeah.
or experiences. How does your nervous system handle that, and how can you change that? Obviously, it's true, it's not overnight. It
Hmm.
requires practice, and
That's right. Yeah.
again, we will make little steps, and then it doesn't mean that another situation will come up and we won't feel fear or anxiety and stress, of
Mhm.
course, but
Mhm.
it does become less and less intense with the practice and with pushing ourselves maybe a little more and having that kind of courage, as you said, to say, oh, okay, so I feel terrible right now. It's really hard. I feel very anxious. How can I shift that
Mhm.
with this image of I'm already there? It's already happened. I'm already that person. And then make the phone call. You're in a different frequency.
That's
You're
right.
already in a frequency of it already exists.
Yes, that's right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I love that. And that's
yeah,
a really powerful tool.
yeah. And also, as we speak about this sort of change of frequency, the other way is when we do feel intensely, often, and so we tend to, when we feel, often we tend to create a story about it too. I feel this way, blah blah blah, which actually
Mm,
often keeps us stuck in that frequency because we're amplifying the story. But instead,
yes.
if we just feel the emotion in the body, often we can drop through to a whole other area where we do feel fulfilled, like the example I gave earlier.
Yes.
So two different techniques. One is using visualization to bring our frequency up. The other way is to feel, drop through the feeling level, drop the thought about it, and just focus on the body. And then we fall into it. It flips us into higher frequency again.
Right. So in a way, it's kind of connecting or being in a state of higher frequency and also dropping into the body where it's stable, where it's grounded.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. And
I really
again,
love that.
in my meditations in India, I really saw that it was possible to go, to be in wild, horrible or what we would normally describe as horrible situations and be in total joy and bliss in those situations. And I realized that on my expeditions, that was something I was learning through experience multiple times.
Right.
Is it, so a core concept I was busy experimenting with and learning about multiple places. So, for instance, falling through the ice at the North Pole at minus 45, right? And what did I learn from that?
So you truly learnt what it means to be resilient, but in the most, wow, extreme and truthful ways by experimenting in these very extreme environments and situations that you had to face.
Yeah.
How could you, like for us in our everyday lives, how could you maybe give some tips or advice to how to become resilient or understand even maybe what resilience means in life?
Yeah. So, really good question. And you've in many ways, you're speaking about how you work with people sounds like it's exactly in that theme. And so really I see that if we can become the observer of ourselves, so in our quirkiness and look upon it as quirkiness, then that is super helpful. So don't feel like I'm explaining this very well, but let me give you.
Maybe the acceptance of the, I would say that pushing, because you have learnt basically to feel comfortable in very uncomfortable situations,
Yes.
physically, mentally, emotionally, in very, very strong and powerful ways. And basically the result of that is becoming resilient. How do
Yes.
I manage the heat? How do I manage this unbearable cold? How do I respond to it? And how basically can I experience it and go through it?
hmm Yes, great. So taking from that, then, one thought would be first of all, set the intention. I want to be comfortable in any situation in life. As soon as we set that intention, the magic starts to help us get there. We start getting all these little clicks so just as I said earlier about the vision of becoming a mountain guide, we don't know the path, but just putting the question out and asking the question, how do I be comfortable in every situation in life? And then
Mm,
what I also see is that by starting off with those small things of just, I'm upset because my coffee isn't in the fridge. And let me just take a minute and look at that. So start looking at these small situations. Can I flip that into ease? Just ask that question. Can I flip this into ease? And you might go, well,
yes.
no, 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 no. Well, actually, yes, I can. Let me just take a couple of breaths. So there's various techniques we can access. But if we start off with the question, how do I turn this into ease? Then we'll start finding the various tools. So then we'll find out a meditation teacher who says, practice breathing. You know, we'll find, yourself who's saying, hey, here's a workbook to analyze some of these thoughts. right? So by
Mm,
asking these questions, how can I shift perspective? The universe will supply answers. There's thousands of little techniques and little tools that we can use that are super helpful that
yes.
will guide us.
Yes, and that's really important because when we think of resilience, we can think, oh, being resilient means being tough. It means
Hmm.
being hard skinned and being strong. And basically, yeah, that's it, which would kind of tend to think not feeling anything, not processing anything, not inquiring anything at all. It's just, I'm tough. But
Hmm.
resilience isn't that. It's all the contrary, in fact.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, the resilience is a way of being at ease in any situation. So I'll give you another example. Typically, in a situation, we'll have a default or an automatic way of responding. So I think you and I chatted about this about a car crash, and so some people will freak out. Some people will move into blame, even if they're at the fault. There's a whole
Mm,
bunch, but they're automatic responses, unconscious automatic responses, right? And there's just one
yes,
way. But the
yes,
more calm we get, the more we start asking about these questions, the more then a whole pile of options become available to us. So in total calmness in a car crash, we can say, right now my priority needs to be to help this person. My priority needs to phone, the police. My priority needs to calm this person down. My priority is for me to be at ease and radiate peace here. So all those become available when we're calm, but when we're not calm, we just have one default, right? And we'll play that over and over and over again in every situation. So it's
yes,
recognized
which
I'm caught up in a pattern.
exactly. That's what I was going to say because it's an automatic response that we have. If we
Mhm.
react in a certain way, whether if it's like being feeling as a victim or being angry and cursing, it's an automatic response. It's a conditioning.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like we like to be that way. It
Mhm.
just is. And how can we, as you said, yes, bring that awareness to how we respond to situations and how we interact with those emotions and feelings within, and and also be aware of the environment, because we soon very quickly just get into our bubble of like, oh, this and that and da da da,
Mhm.
and we're in this bubble and it's basically, yeah, just with ourselves. So how can we extract ourselves from that
Mhm.
by
Yes.
becoming aware of, maybe, yes, as you said, using these little tools of asking a question, or maybe, oh, how's the other person in the other car? Okay, doesn't matter my car right now. Are they okay?
Mhm.
Or bringing some kind of awareness to something exterior than our reactions in our bubble, and get out of it. Yeah, bringing awareness.
Yeah, and that's what I see there is that if we look at it from, okay, as we start doing this, we start understanding that was my default program. My default program was to be angry at the other driver. So let me look at that and let me first of all see, oh, that ripples out into multiple areas of my life. This is an unconscious pattern I do with my kids, I do with my
Yes,
my husband, my wife, etc., etc.
yes,
So then I know where that's coming from. That's probably coming from early childhood. So I need to bring an element of just understanding and forgiveness so that when I see it, this is not me. In my essence, that's not me. So let my
yes.
essential self be the observer of my humanity freaking out.
Yes, which exactly, yeah. Because we are allowed to, I mean, we're allowed to feel angry or feel scared, or, but there is this also not overreacting, and again, not blaming ourselves if we do, having
Hmm.
that possibility to see it as conditioning, habitual behavior, reactive response that we don't necessarily control, and it's just within us, and have that kind of, as you said, forgiveness towards ourselves. Just being aware, all right, I'm reacting like this, don't like it, I see it, I'm not going to beat myself up. How can I change that
Yes,
gently?
exactly.
It's not like this, yeah,
And what is my
because it's very
possible?
easy.
Sorry, what
Sorry,
is my
I was just going to,
possibility? Yeah, that's right.
yeah, I think it's very hard not to get into this, I'd say, toxic positivity, where sometimes we force ourselves to be in a certain state, or we
Hmm.
force ourselves to, yes, to see things a certain way. It's not a matter of forcing,
Hmm.
because that only creates inner friction, which
Yes.
is not healthy. It's rather than, how can I accept, How can I forgive? It's no big deal, but I do want to change.
Yes, exactly. No, that's super. I agree totally that this it's when we feel at ease in the body, then we know we're
Mm,
on track, right? And when our heart is open,
yes.
being at ease and a heart open in any situation is the game.
Yeah, and I think again, I don't want to. It's nice not to add any pressure to those who are listening and saying, "Oh yeah, well, wow, if I had an accident, I could see how I would react." Again, that's fine. This is how we become aware, and this is how we change so slowly, and we transform, and we kind of evolve and see things differently, just to feel more comfortable within. Because when we are in that state, we are the ones basically suffering from it.
Hmm.
I mean, who is it bothering other than ourselves? Unless, yes, you have your kids in the car or your husband or wife, but obviously you're going to affect the others, but you're also just affecting your own inner state. So how can I become aware and and change that?
Yeah, and I really see that our human tendency is to move into beating ourselves up and being super
Hmm.
critical. But when we use an element of grace with ourselves, as in, "Oh, I know what, I'm understanding a bit more where that pattern comes from. Um, and on the one hand, I don't like it. And on the other hand, I have my possibility is to change it over time. So let me
Yes.
work on changing it. As I work with a coach, often I do notice that when we identify something and then start putting numbers around the change, we'll notice that one day, hey, I handled that specific situation way better. On a scale of 1 to 10, I handled it a 10. Next day, I handled it as a 4. Oh, that's way better than 2 months ago when I was constantly at a -5, right? And so
Exactly.
by being more specific, we'll notice, hey, my emotions vary a lot. And that's so this is part of me understanding myself. But I can
Yes.
see the change, incremental change over time?
Yes. Scaling the change to be able to notice the progress and note the progress.
Yes.
And I wanted to come back to that kind of becoming aware of our reactions, our reactiveness. I think it was Eckhart Tolle one day said, I was listening to a podcast, and he said that when we become aware, for example, of when we react, maybe we had a fight with someone and we overreacted. Sometimes, well, at first we will realize maybe 2 months later, oh, maybe I could have responded rather than react. Maybe I could have been a bit less harsh. And then that is kind of the little click that you can get. And then it's just a matter of the more you become aware, the more you notice, and the faster you will kind of change your response. So maybe at first it's 2 months later, and then it will be 2 weeks after, and maybe it'll be the next day, or you'll wake up saying, hey, yesterday I reacted like that. Well, I didn't like it. And well, yeah, okay, I'm aware. And how can I change that? Why did I react that way? And again, be curious and ask ourselves those questions to be able to kind of unravel, understand, and yes, basically feel and live the awareness. And I have noticed from experience that really resonated when he told that, because basically it's not, again, I have to be this person, I want to be perfect, I want to be great, I want to be positive, and it's all there, it's all done. No, it takes, obviously it takes time, it takes practice, and like anything else, it's like a muscle. You become
Mhm.
aware, and at first you're not aware right away, and there's delay, and you kind of come back to things, yeah, and then it becomes more and more natural, more and more easy, and then you will reach the day where you will be in that very challenging situation, and you will respond, and you
Mhm.
will actually see yourself respond the way you want to respond, in a way with some kind of inner peace and balance. And you will actually see yourself say, wow, like yeah, here I am. I've done it. I can do it.
Great. Yeah, I agree totally with this because I really see it. So in the gym, we're building muscles, or on these expeditions, we're building muscles and things. But actually, in my coaching, often I've had people say to me, "Well, literally, I cannot say that. My mouth, my mouth will not ask that question."
Yes.
So literally, it's accessing a muscle. If we look at it, somebody going from anger to calm, the muscles are not available. They have to build the muscles, build the sequence of muscles that help them move, and that's over time. So, for instance, there's
Yes.
some people who've said, "Well, I literally cannot say that." This is a question often with authority. they've grown up with a very, authoritarian parent. And so when their boss says, do this, yes, how high do I jump type thing, right? And so getting them to ask questions. So literally people had to put signs on the bathroom. When my leader says to me this, I respond with, what's the timeline? Give me more time, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Because it's literally not available. So it's building a muscle. So if you look at this whole
Building a
process
muscle.
of not, I'm wrong, it's just my muscle is not built. I have to build my
Yes,
muscle over time
exactly.
and approach it from that very systematic approach of my muscle is this much stronger. As you say, it's now down to 2 weeks than when it was 2 months.
Yeah.
But the more we measure it, actually, the more that's helpful for us because the mind tends to go into, no, 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 you're a failure. So, but by having tools and techniques, using a diary, using some form of thing like that really helps reinforce the fact that I am changing. My mind can see the change, therefore it wants more change.
Yes, yes. I'd like to come to meditation. So how did you
So I experimented with meditation and found it not particularly interesting at first. But then when I went off to India, because really what drove me to India was I saw, there's more where our potential is greater, right? So that's what took me off to India. And so then in India, we were practicing meditations for 18 hours a day and at times
wow, 18
a
hours.
variety of
Wow.
meditations, a variety of meditations too. So for anybody
Yes.
listening, I'd say look around for different meditation types, ones that suit your personality. So, for instance,
Hmm.
for those of you who are into exercise, often what I've seen there is that when we're going for a 20-minute run, for the first 5 or 10 minutes, we're processing, what about this, what about that? Then we calm down and down. And the last 5 minutes, often we're just in a flow state. So look upon that
Yes.
as running is my meditate, or part of the time I'm running, part of it is processing, part of it is just my meditation. Then we become even more meditative in that space, right? Somebody can say, oh, I've been meditating for 10 minutes in my run. And
Yeah.
or in the gym, the same thing. And so now I would highly recommend that even though you're when I say the word a meditation, you go, no, 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 that's not for me. I would say
Yes,
super small. Just, there's some great apps
exactly.
out there, not off super small. Look at when am I meditating now in the day?
Mm,
Maybe when I'm doing the dishes is a meditation for me. Let me be more
exactly.
aware when I'm doing the dishes. Let me just
Yes.
instead of one technique there, I'll just give you one is that um, to when we are doing the dishes, just be totally present with your hands, with the soap, with the water, with the dish, and just totally focus on that process,
Yes,
and don't let the mind go elsewhere. And you've had a
exactly.
3-minute meditation right then.
Exactly. I really love that because meditation, it's not this whole grand thing where you have to sit down for hours and, oh, I have to meditate. Again, that's just doing the things to doing a ritual in a way.
Hmm.
And I mean, you can really just meditate and sit down for 2 hours, which is wonderful if you can. But if you can't, there is no pressure. Just coming back to yourself, to presence, as you said, being again aware and conscious of what we are doing. And yeah, just 5 minutes sometimes, it's all we need in the day. Take 5, 10 minutes, even if it's just, yeah, if you can, like sitting in the sun or just closing your eyes and, as you said, doing the dishes, or maybe it is when you're running, but you're in a meditative state. And yeah, yeah. So I really loved that, removing pressure from this kind of grand idea of what meditation should look like and how many hours we should do per day.
And I do see also that as we explore the magic, then we might be drawn to more meditation. So just be open to what is revealed on this journey too.
Yes.
But if you're asking the question, how can I feel, at ease and fulfilled in every moment, then answers will come. It may be through dance. There's all sorts of
Yes.
all
All
sorts of
sorts of
ways.
things. Yes. I call them boosters.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love this. How can we, what do you offer, Martin, today? Do you offer coaching and guidance? How can we find you if we're
Yeah.
interested and would like to contact you?
So I just published a book with all those adventures in it, and I think you'll probably put a link.
Wow.
You'll probably put a link in. The book is called
Yes.
Sure, Let's Go, and I'll put a link. And then also I have a website, enlighteningadventures.com, where I offer coaching and all that sort of information. So that's the best way to reach out to me. But on there, you can email me as well. So I'm happy to respond to emails.
Wonderful. I will put all that in the description in the bio so people can contact you. So it's nice and clear.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you so much, Martyn. It was lovely. I could talk more.
Yeah, I really enjoy. So for the listeners, I'd say also, contact Charlotte and see what services she has to offer too. Hopefully this is you can tell what a wonderful being she is, and she can help you too. Either of us go either way.
Thank you so much. That's lovely. It's really sweet. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you
Thanks,
so much
Charlotte.
for everyone who was listening. And I hope it did, again, bring some spark and maybe some light and sometimes some hope. That's all we need. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Keeping the Magic, the podcast. You can listen to more episodes now on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Trust your potential within. Lots of love.